Welcome to Agents of the Crown. Many of our agents have come here to seek an audience with the nobility. However, some dastardly impostors have snuck their way into our midst. But we need not worry about this particular batch of louts. The proper defensives have already been deployed to deal with them. Click on one of the walking agents to read their information on the lower left display. We can see a variety of information on their comings and goings. Pay attention to that packet data. Look for anything suspicious. Now see the raging wall of flame in the middle of the path? That's an appropriately named firewall. Only us observer agents can actually see them, but they'll give anyone a mean burn under the right conditions. That one is currently set up to send our suspects off to meet their maker. You can place additional firewalls by pressing the left shift key to summon one, and the left shift key again on a valid tile to set it down. If a saboteur happens to get through to one of the nobles, they'll cause an incident, and our superiors will start eyeing us for an audit. So let's do our job and keep the crown happy. That's all for now, Agent. We'll speak again soon.
Alright, so we're going to start by looking at a level that has not yet been set dressed. So in this level, by pressing the left shift key, we're able to place firewalls within the level. Right, we can also click on packets to see that packet data, and based on that information, we're able to access the console and give it the commands it needs to block bad packets. Here we're typing IP access list standard and 0, which is the number of the firewall that we're accessing. Currently, this is in the order of the firewalls being placed, with the first being 0 and everyone after that incrementing by a value of 1. So here we're looking at that packet on the left. We can see it says I hate you, so we are denying that packet's IP address, which is that third line there. Once we input that, it will tell us whether or not it was accepted, and if it was accepted, we can return to the screen to watch it run. Okay. So content that's put onto the console is stored, so the player is able to refer back to it as they continue playing. So here you can see that we're now configuring the other firewall in this scene. So IP access list standard 1 is telling us to access that firewall at the top. It's telling us that it's already been told to block everything, and now we've told it to deny this IP address that we know is bad. Alright, so we can continue clicking on packets within the level to check that their data is valid and that they should be allowed to cross. Currently, the easiest method to do this is just looking at that bottom packet data, because currently it says things like I hate you, which would obviously be a bad packet, and Merry Christmas. However, this is just temp data, so this will be replaced in the beta version of the game. Alright, so watching here, we can see that none of these packets are turning into slugs once they cross the switches, which are represented by the green circles there. If we were getting slugs, that would be a visual indication to the player that they are missing something in their firewalls, and they would be able to continue placing them within the map and working to configure those. Alright, so now that that level is coming to an end, we're going to look at a level now that has some set dressing already in it, so you can get a better idea of what we're going for our final beta build. Alright, so we're going to lay firewalls once again into the level, and click on packets to reveal that data. Going to the console, we can access that individual firewall by typing IP access list standard and 0, because it's the first firewall in the level. We can see that it's currently permitting any packets that come towards it. So looking at that data, we see a bad source IP based on the packet data that's contained at the bottom there. So we're going to type deny and followed by the IP address that needs to be blocked. Currently you can see that it says no packet selected. We're going to have that corrected for the next round, but currently it wipes the data after you access the console, so you have to click back into the scene. Okay, so we can see that all these packets have the same source IP, and we've already blocked that IP. Now we found another source IP, but we can see it says hello, so that packet is not a threat to us. Okay, so now turning to look at the other side of the map, we can see more packets spawning, so we're going to place a firewall. We notice that packet that's incoming has a bad IP that, even though it matches the same IP as the other side of spawns, this firewall has not yet been configured, so we'll have to do that again. Okay, so we see IP access list standard 1, which is telling us to access the second firewall within the level. We can see it already says to permit any, which means it's going to let through any packets that come towards it currently. Now we've denied that bad IP address, and we see a successful. And when we say show access list 1, it shows us all the rules that are currently stored on that firewall, so what it's blocking and allowing. Okay, so we can see these are all the same source IP, so we are good to go. Okay, so we're once again going to access the list that is being stored on that firewall for blocking, and we're going to say no 1. So that's going to delete the second rule that's stored on here, which is to deny that bad packet. Now we say show access list, we can see that it just has that first rule still being stored. That packet should now be able to pass. Okay, so this is something that the player is going to have to keep an eye on as they go through things, because they don't want to accidentally block packets just because they have the same source IP. As the player progresses through levels, they'll have to begin blocking also based on destination IP, source and destination combined, and then also using a combination of source, destination, and packet data. I'm sorry, import data. Right. In the final couple of levels, that packet data that's there at the bottom, so the string data, they'll be able to look at that and then key in portions of that to block anything that has that same portion as well. Okay, so we can see we have a slug back there, which means that our firewall that we placed at the bottom right was still not configured, so we never put that rule back on there, so it didn't know to block it. So the slugs that we're getting means that we had bad packets get through. It's a visual indication that we need to go back and look at our firewalls. In the next version, players will also be able to click onto the end users and see what their IP addresses are so they can ensure that everything is working correctly and IPs line up.